26% of children in the United States will witness or experience a traumatic event before they turn the age of 4. If our mantra here at Christian Cultural Center is Christ in Culture, and one of our core values is family, then it should be okay to talk about mental health and the effect it has on the Black community.
Why do people behave the way they do? What is it? And I was raised in such a culture where I understood that we didn't talk about it. You didn't mention it. You need to get over it. Don't talk about it. And I kept saying, well, what is the it that no one wants to talk about? The it is trauma in our community.
So when you asked about whether I had any sort of experienced any sort of element of mental illness or psychological trauma, I had almost overlooked it because it is oftentimes the things that are the most uncomfortable to remember are the things that we're the greatest at overlooking. I must have been about 14. I went to a boarding school. I started having these anxiety attacks, I guess you would call them, or panic attacks. And it would be the craziest thing. I'd be in a quiet place, the library. And all of a sudden my heart would just start beating real fast for no reason. And I'd start sweating, I'd get dizzy. And it kept happening more and more frequently. And I couldn't understand why. I didn't know what was going on. They had an infirmary for the students there on campus. And I ended up speaking with a therapist there. Through a series of sessions, she had me describe exactly what I was feeling. She was able to pull back, various layers and take me back to that evening, that night, and realize that there was an indelible imprint that was made on me. It brought back the panic of that moment, and it manifested itself physically.
Severe neglect in childhood is the equivalent to PTSD. So when we start to look at 7 out of 10 of our children who say they have experienced some form of the ACEs, that's what it's called, the ACEs, the adverse childhood experiences. That's why we need to start having these conversations, because our children are being born in trauma. A lot of people don't know that this exists, and so they believe that it started with them. And the dangerous thing about that can also be that they internalize themselves to be no good, to just be a problem to family, be a problem to society.
Sometimes the family can't help each other because the family is the reason why the wounds are there. They never talked to me about it. We've never discussed it, even till this day. And I just assumed that, my aunt would tell my mom because they were best friends and they were sisters. And till this day, not a peep, not one word. And I grappled with that. I lived with that. And I also became very angry to the point where I just reacted, and I built up such walls that it took a whole lot for God to help me through and manage my emotions and to even trust, family members, to trust people, and very difficult thing to live with. The situation that happened with the molestation, I was able to share with her in a very indirect way because something else happened in the family with somebody else, and the trauma came up, and I responded to her, and I said, well, people said this about me. They said that I was mean, I was labeled because I had to go in defense mode, because people knew what happened to me and they didn't do anything about it. And she was really quiet. I actually felt like I was silenced in many ways. I was struggling and battling with how I was feeling about life and my purpose and why am I here? Why is this happening? And I didn't really have answers to those questions. And I didn't have somebody that was talking to me at the time either to say, okay, this is what you're feeling, and being able to help me to self-regulate. And I went up to the roof and I contemplated jumping off, and I'm thankful. I'm thankful that it was a thought only and it wasn't something that I actually succeeded in, because I wouldn't be able to be here today to even share my story.
I remember I was still at school. I told my mom that I had been seeing a counselor, a therapist, and I told her about what was happening and why, and she was really happy that I was doing that I had made that move towards healing, and that was different because I didn't expect she would be. I kind of believe that my mom wanted to forget as well. She was sort of hurt and perhaps even ashamed.
It's so important that we don't take our behaviors and our way of thinking just as, well, you know what? This is just who I am. No. When did it start? Where did it start? How was your mom? How did your mom behave? How did your dad behave? How did your grandparents behave? What was their mental health like? Their emotional health? What tools do you feel were transferred to you in order to cope with situations that arise in life? And interestingly enough, in the Black community, the African American community, you'll hear, well, they never talked about anything. They never shared. And so if that information was not transferred down, then it causes me to ask, what other conversations have not been had within our communities, within our families?
I believe that there's a certain level of shame that's tied to it. So many people have in our culture have presented this image. We're more image conscious than being honest. I am not ashamed to say that I am an overcomer because first I've overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of my testimony. And my testimony is this, that I've overcome the heaviness of depression, suicidal thoughts, and even molestation. I've overcome the overwhelming need to emotionally edit because of my responsibilities. I've overcome the need to please everybody. And here I am today, transparent and an overcomer.